So whenever you want to ask a question, I'll just pass you the mic and you can ask Cory your question.
Also keeps people from fighting. You just wait till you get the baton, speak into the baton slowly.
Yeah. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Cory McElroy.
All right. So normally people ask me to speak and I always go, I made a video on that already. I've done everything. And so I do these to go, what do you want to know? Do you want to know behind the scenes? Do you want to know the time that someone fled the country because I gave them a $100 tip in Peru? Like, what are the stories you want to hear? Maybe if you've listened to everything I've ever done, you're like, I heard that before, you know. But then you can also veer over and look at my wife and be like, is he lying? Did that actually happen? You know, so you could harass her too. That's true. Yeah, let's just get that out of the way. I'm a liar to start with. And yeah, so normally someone breaks the ice and goes, hey, I got a question. And then I will ramble for 4 hours and like, get that away from him. As I do on the podcast and things. That's kind of a running joke at my business. If I talk too long, cut them off, get them to the next thing. You know, as hobbyists, our hobby is kind of always under attack, whether it's fish regulations, whether it's political tariff stuff, whether it's, that's mostly what happens to us. But every day that we don't bring a new aquarist in, our hobby is dying. There's some clubs where you show up and you're like, oh, the youngest person here is 50. Like, we are not doing a good job at stewarding people younger and bringing them up. And if you want your own version of Dean locally that's breeding fish and access, you have to foster a community. And I believe that starts with the mom and pop store. So not, as I normally would say, the Petcos, the PetSmarts, the Big L's. They all play a role for sure. Like Aquarium Co-op's role is actually to take you from just got in the hobby with a big chain store and make you a hobbyist. And not everybody's a hobbyist. What is a hobbyist to me? If you own a betta and one aquarium, you're not a hobbyist, you're a pet keeper. I own 2 dogs. I don't consider myself a dog person. I have 2 dogs. And so to cross over to a hobbyist is when you start going, I'm keeping ecosystems, I'm breeding, I have 3 aquariums, I'm starting to research and I'm starting to get into the hobby, I'm talking to others. And I don't do that as a dog person. I don't go to the dog events. I don't go, hey, what do you know about this? And I'm just a pet owner. And so our goal at Aquarium Co-op is to take people from pet owners of fish to hobbyists of fish. And that has been our whole goal the whole time. And I think one of the key elements to that is keeping live plants where it makes sense in your aquariums. Not every aquarium can have live plants, but most can. They're a little bit daunting. And so that's been a very big goal of ours. But it is not to turn you into aquascapers and win competitions. That's not our role. Other companies do that. And so we focus on how do we get you from your first aquarium into becoming a hobbyist with 700 aquariums and a fish room and all that. And we kind of go too far on that one. But in general, that's where we focus. And so when I'm maybe designing products, I'm basically designing for myself and a lot of you that are in the room. Not all of you are that. Some of you are like, oh, I'm really advanced. Some joined yesterday. But in general, I'm trying to run a business how you might sit in the audience and go, I wish that company would do this. This is what I would do. Aquarium Co-op is my version of that. And I have to check myself sometimes going, hey, you weren't thinking about that. I never thought we would be online. My whole goal was to basically do a smaller version of Darren. I was never going to sell online at all. In fact, I was never going to sell a dry good. I was going to only sell fish and plants. And because I didn't think I could compete with Amazon or anything like that. And then a couple months into it, I'm thinking, just before I open, I go, well, there's a couple things you do need that you can't buy online in time. Medicine, and if your heater broke. So I will carry medicines and I will carry heaters. Everything else, just buy it on Amazon or whatever. I can't compete. And then what happened was I open up and people go, but I want to support you, Cory. I want it today. I want your recommendation. And over the years, that built. And so now my brand, you see my face. There is one retail partner store, stop making products with your dumb face on it, as we got told. And I tried to explain, I'm like, yeah, a lot of people are starting to put faith though, in if Cory endorses a product, his reputation's on the line. Obviously I endorse our products, but there's other people's products I endorse. And in the store before I was online, I basically had to make those choices. What am I gonna bring in? What am I gonna bet my money on? What am I gonna have work for my customer? And I kept running into, what do you mean no one sells a sponge filter? What do you mean that you guys don't carry this? Or they would carry it, but the inventory would be literally 4. Like, we brought in 4. And I'm like, but I sell 4 in a day. It's like, yes, but the other 100 stores have sold none in 6 years. So that's why the number's 4. And so we struggled for a very long time with, can I pre-order? Like, nope, the algorithm's the algorithm. You sell them, we'll then bring in 6. And you sell those 6, and then we'll bring in 10. Well, that took way too long. And so I had to start searching for my own sources. And it's still today, we will end up buying things from like 5 different wholesalers and buy the entire country out. Because for some reason, they still won't sit down with the young guy and they won't believe me when I'd like to buy 10,000 of these. And there's like, but we haven't. So an example of that with Fritz Aquatics, we partnered with them to release some of the meds in America. And our initial order with them was more than they had done in meds in the previous year of all the med sales, because they didn't know how to market. And we find that so often at the companies is they will have the brightest minds in the world working for them, but they've never kept an aquarium. And so they can make anything, but they don't understand why they're making it. And so you can imagine how hard it would be to make the best car if you've never driven a car before. And you have to tell someone like, no, make it turn like this. You can't drive it, but it needs to turn different. And so that led to our quest of making items where I make it for a hobbyist. Oftentimes I'm told no one will buy that. Easy Green was our first product ever. And I was literally told it's impossible. They turned us down, the chemical company turned us down twice. I had to sign a waiver that said, I will pay for this, you will make it, and that even if it doesn't sell and doesn't work, I'm on the hook for it. Because they literally said, an all-in-one fertilizer can't be done. It can't be done, you can't mix it. I'm like, you're telling me something that can't be done that I've been doing in my fish room in a 2-liter bottle for years. And so that was the beginning of what I called fish room science. You can have 10 chemists tell me I'm wrong, but I can show you the fish breeding or the plant growing. I don't have the degree to tell you how you're wrong, but I can show you how you're wrong. And so as I kept doing the show myself the thing, we could take the Easy Green sales and bet it on the next thing that no one wants a sponge filter. Now in America, you can walk into a chain store and they have a sponge filter sitting on the shelf, and they hadn't had that in 15 years. Now they're still $20 and up. It's way too expensive because that's what they do, but it shows that if I yap at you guys long enough on YouTube, maybe you want some. And then I think the career we have going, I like to think, I make some pretty bold claims, but then 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, like, he actually did it. That crazy SOB did it. And so the outlandish things I say start being like, I don't know, maybe he'll do it. Maybe he will do that. And with the support with everybody, people showing up to stuff like this, you guys support local mom and pops, they support me, everybody's supporting the hobby. I try to always put it in the lens like, is this gonna be good for the hobby? Because there's a lot of things I can do to be good for business. There's that, and when I say Fluval's tripping and other companies are tripping, they're doing a lot of stuff that makes sense for business, not a lot of stuff that makes sense for the hobby. And I believe that I will go out of business if I don't keep you guys in the hobby. And I think I am a CEO. For the longest time, I would never call myself a CEO. I was an owner because I don't want to be perceived as the guy that lives quarter to quarter. I got to get profits up. We got to grow. And then I'm out. Where's my golden parachute? And we've been approached by venture capital companies to buy us. people that buy companies like Bulk Reef Supply and other ones. And we're not interested in selling, because when we watch what happens, Bulk Reef Supply, it's not the same company anymore at all. It used to be, they were doing for saltwater what we were doing for freshwater. It was amazing. I really envied their research facilities and stuff, and all the product reviews where they would actually have an impartial review and buy the crazy equipment so that guys and girls like us didn't have to spend thousands of dollars. And they don't do that anymore. Now they go, well, we make a product, you should buy a product. And you can raise your hand and be like, isn't that what you do, Cory? Like, yeah, that's basically what I do. I have to do that too. But I do believe in what I sell. I don't think every product we make is right for everybody. And I learn every day. And my commitment to my company and you guys is, when you go, this thing sucks, make it better, and here's how you should do it, I will look into it. And if you're watching for it, you know, like our original air pumps that came out with the battery, they only ran 8 hours. Now, officially, I think we mark them at 48, but I can go to 56 when I actually do it. We never changed the price because of it. We just negotiated harder. When we made the first one, we used off-the-shelf batteries. Well, now they make custom batteries to fit inside of our air pumps because we sell enough. And so Easy Green, when we first launched it, treated 2,500 gallons, and it was $15. Well, now it's $20 and it treats 5,000 gallons. So we'll constantly try to bring the value to everybody, and I don't know it all. I'm literally just a hobbyist that gets good people around him to support me. And then as we get money, we ask other engineers like, hey, this is all you do. Here's my crazy drawing. Can you make this a reality? And oftentimes the answer is yes. I've had to learn all kinds of skills that I never thought I would need. I know that when you 3D print something, you can make things with a 3D printer that you basically cannot make when you injection mold it. So sometimes like, this product's perfect, except you can't just mold that product. So then we have to have teams of people figure out, how do you make this product exist when you don't build it layer by layer? And one of those big things was the Easy Flow. The Easy Flow has these tiny holes, and you can do that because you're doing layer by layer. If you try to injection mold it, you can't have bubbles that small in those tolerances. So we print it in 2 parts, and then we got to use a technology I didn't know existed, and that is laser welding. Each one's laser welded together to make an Easy Flow collar. And then I just completely accidentally made it better when I was in China, and we were 3D printing and working on pieces, and I decided it needed to be adjustable for any size tank. That happened in the span of about 90 minutes in a room 10 times as hot as this, because it was just China and it was brutal. And it was because of Randy. Randy goes, well, how tall does it need to be? And I go, well, no one's ever asked me how tall it needs to be. And I go, it depends on what size tank people have. And the answer was, do we make 10 different kits? We already have 4 sizes, but a 10-gallon needing a medium versus a 55-gallon needing a medium is a different amount of parts. So all of a sudden it had to become modular. And we were able to figure it out on the fly. And then the engineer added a piece that I had never thought of. The part that holds the tubing, the airline tubing, that little clip. They literally were like, we added that. Do you like it? I'm like, that's genius. I didn't think about that. I almost said, make us 100,000. It wouldn't have had that part. So it takes everybody. I had an idea. I had people help me. I had engineers weigh in. And there's lots of stuff in between of testing, like, was this the right angle? Or was that the right angle? There's all of that in between as well. But at the end of the day, all that it went in to make an under $20 product that is the pillar of so many aquariums. And that's what builds our empire. We're building it from the ground up with your guys' and girls' money. And I don't just, buy vacation homes and stuff like that. It literally goes into, we're gonna bet on the next product, the next food, or the next thing. And hopefully that applies to some of you, because you might go, I don't need that thing. I don't like sponge filters. Like, cool, maybe you like Easy Green, maybe you like another thing. Maybe you buy merch, maybe you don't. The merch, I basically sell at what it costs us almost, because first and foremost, quality, important. I hate a shirt that you wore it twice and it starts flaking off. I won't do direct to print. These cost way more because you actually go to the surface of the sun, which is a screen printing factory, basically, made in America, where actual humans are working and they're running each screen thousands of times. But that means that this lasts. We've got people like, I've been wearing your shirt for 9 years. Like, yeah, they're gonna last. But that process costs twice as much. And so if I wouldn't wear my own shirt every day, I won't sell my shirt. And if I wish I had some of my employees, the amount of BS that we've gone through, I can detect when I put a shirt on, I go, it's not the same shirt. It's not, I didn't approve that shirt. And they're like, I guarantee you. And we went, it actually went a month with multiple companies. Turns out it was made in a different country. And the actual cloth was slightly different, even though they swear it's the same, because I'm that OCD about this kind of stuff. I don't know why. I just know I like what I like. And then if you guys like what I like, you have a good time. If you don't, follow somebody else. They'll set you right. Anyone have any questions about this rambling so far? Yeah, you be the baton sharer.
Who's first up?
Doesn't have to be about this, it could be about anything. I can just keep doing this all day. This is like a live stream for me, except it's actually live.
Mr. Carlson.
So how healthy do you see the hobby right now, and what direction do you see it going in the future?
Yeah, so I'll repeat it in case you didn't hear it up front, but how healthy is the hobby now, and where do I see it going? I think coming out of COVID, you know, obviously we all kind of know, like, yeah, more people got into aquariums, but are people staying? We don't know that. I meet a lot of you, and yes, you joined with COVID, so I think we're riding higher than we were 5 years ago. But then there's things that trouble me, like African cichlids almost don't exist anymore. Like, people are like, oh, we don't love them like we used to. We're really into nano tanks, we're really into plants, and those are all good signs. I think the ponds are dying back, koi and that kind of stuff. Goldfish are on a lull right now. But where do I see it going? I only see fish getting harder to get a hold of and moving around the world. And I'm kind of excited to watch it come back full circle, where you go and you buy John's guppy, you buy Steve's Corridora, and they have a lineage behind them. That's been missing for a very long time, basically since the 70s and 80s. You see them every once in a while. You might see like, oh, I want Dean's Dark Knight Ram or something. But there should be that for everybody. If you rewind 15 years, you know Steve Rybecki's Angels. You have names associated with fish, and they had a reputation. Right now what we have is we have farms that make fish, and their goal is to sell it, not for it to live. And so you might, I know, I get to visit some, there's high-end guppy farms where the guppy's never seen a piece of gravel. It lives with a UV sterilizer all the time. I've been to discus farms where the water, I show you guys on video, why is the water yellow? Full of antibiotics. They literally will struggle once they get to your aquarium because they've lived in antibiotic water their entire life. From the day they were born to the day they get sent to a fish store. That is completely different than the guy down the street that just spawned that angel or that discus. It's nearly not even the same animal when you're trying to keep it as a new hobbyist. And so as rates get more expensive to ship, and it's not even tariffs. Pre-COVID, I could bring in plants from another country and shipping was $700. Post-COVID, even though we are flying more, $2,300. Same amount of stuff moving. And so that obviously impacts your guys' prices. Which that does is means when you breed a fish, I can now give you more for it because it actually does cost a lot more. So I can get a better product, a better fish that will live in our water, and I can give the money to a hobbyist or a breeder, and that creates a job. And I've got pictures on my phone I've been showing everybody, which apparently white clouds are illegal here. You should move. I can't live without that fish. But there's a guy that's got the best longfins you've ever seen. He's got a red version that's as red as a coral red pencil fish. And these are fish that are like $2, $3 because he's been working with it. And the more that you have a strong hobby, the more people will be supported that are breeding, which means more people will have success. His fish, you can't kill, right? but then you order a fish from halfway around the world, doesn't like your water, maybe it got ammonia burn in shipping, and I know I talk to store owners all the time, we would all rather buy from you and fill up this quarantine area than bring it from halfway around the world and fill up this quarantine area. We just would. It's better to put money in your pocket and you buy other stuff from us than to put money into someone else's pocket halfway across the world. So I do believe that we have a celebrity of Flynn here, by the way. Old school YouTuber, yeah. Maybe even an official pilot now, I'm not sure, I haven't seen him in a long time. He is, okay. I met him when he was 14, he was getting into YouTube, so you may know this. This is gonna be, so he's Flynn's Fish Forum. Do you guys know Danny's Aquariums for saltwater at all? I kind of mentored them, they were both the same age. We'd get on YouTube calls, we'd talk about YouTube. Danny went to the channel, Flynn split off and was like, I'm a pilot, I travel the world, that's what he does. But it's weird to see like, yeah, I met you when you're this, and now you're twice as tall as I am. So, you know, obviously Canadian, nicest person in the world, can't fault him for that, but yeah, kind of cool to travel around, see friends, people you've only, he's been down to my house a couple of times, he's been to the store, but good to see you're doing well, buddy. I appreciate you showing up. I was like, you should come, and he said, I'll try, and here he is. So I do think the hobby will push forward. I do think it'll get better for hobbyists if we embrace it. And I do think it takes mom and pop stores. You eliminate that, the better, the more chain stores usually will just flat out won't buy from a hobbyist. They're like, we have contracts, we can't break contracts, and that actually hurts the hobby in general. So mom and pops can. It's hard to work. The public are hard to work with. Anyone that has a public service, customer service job, the public sucks. We all know it. In aggregate, all of us are lovely, but in aggregate, we're terrible people. 1 out of 10 people thinks you're the devil. So it can be hard to work out the relationship, but it's so much better for everybody involved. And I you guys might not know this. I actually make videos for all of the stores as well. Every month I put out a video and it's like, here's how to work with customers better. Here's how to build a better quarantine. Here's how to maybe sell one of our products, stuff like that. So I'm also working on behind the scenes, trying to get more and more buying from local breeders, more local sourcing, better ways to teach people. Sometimes it's making like, let's teach how to catch fish and how to gravel vac. And yeah, those exist there. It's different catching out of a sales tank than it is a home tank, by the way. And so, yeah, I think the hobby's in a good place. There's always gonna be doom and gloom. If I was to bring economies into it, in general, what we see, and we've always seen this, the worse an economy does, the better the pet trade does. You're less likely to travel the world and take a vacation if you don't have money. Instead, you go, I'm gonna spruce up my aquarium. And even when you're like, I have no money, you don't let your animal starve to death. Now, that doesn't mean that it might not be Darren and 2 employees because things are really tight. That does happen, and every dollar you spend helps keep them around. But in general, we know that if economic times are uncertain, pet stores usually do better. The better the economy is, it's actually kind of harder. And as a pet store owner, I'll tell you, all summer long, they go, yep, I'd love that. I'll buy it when I get back from vacation. And they all magically forget because they come back from vacation, they go, I'll buy that once back to school's over with. And then you do that and you're like, well, I'm tight on money and now I'm buying Christmas gifts. And so what's weird is actually what we see in America at least, the spike for aquariums. When is aquarium season? Starts in January. You wouldn't think it because everyone else says, yeah, December, that's big retail time. That's where we make our money. It's actually the season, January to June 1st. You will sell so many fish, people are locked in, and then weather gets good and you're like, hey, I like nature, I'm going out. And then you neglect it, you're still feeding it, you're still playing with it, but you're not traveling to come hear a dork talk. You're going, I got better stuff to do, right? So, but I think it's good. A lot of people will burn out. I think it's good to take it as a season. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get really into aquariums for these months. Then I'm gonna do real life stuff and have a really good time. And then when the weather sucks again, I'm gonna get back into aquariums. That is a very healthy thing. People burn out when they're like, I've only been looking at aquariums for 2 years straight. And I'm like, you're not gonna last. You know, those people that go from 1 to 50 aquariums in a year, like they're not long for the world in the aquarium world. So they're great for making money, but honestly, I want to meet the guy I knew when he was 14 and he's still around. I want that, and I think most shop owners do. And yeah, I want the aquarium club to come back to BC. You guys lost your club. That can be remedied. We're basically at a meeting right now. Like, obviously people exist that want to have it happen. You got to have some people who's crunching the numbers, who's staying late, who's sweeping up afterwards, who's doing the work, and you got to rest people. You can't just make someone do it forever. It takes volunteers. We're lucky to have some people doing it in Washington, where I'm from. I ran the Breeder Award program for many years, and then it was a conflict of interest. If I run the program, like, yeah, you should breed this. By the way, you should sell it all to me at the same time. It was not fair to the other stores. But yeah, I think for the most part, the hobby feels safe. It feels like it's pushing forward. I don't think we're gonna see an explosion in growth. I don't wanna see that for my business. I don't wanna see it for the hobby, because when you see an explosion, you also see the downfall. We saw that with COVID. Everybody's in, like, probably half of you guys didn't keep a house plant. COVID hit and you're like, yeah, I'm $3,000 into houseplants now. And then now you're like, well, I keep houseplants, but I may have gone to, you know, a Plantaholic Anonymous meeting or two at this point. Can we stop buying $700 houseplants for a little while? Like, it's out of control. Like, yeah, like, oh, that disc is too expensive. $700 houseplant though, I'm into that. And it's because you're like, but I could grow it and then I could trade it. You can do that with fish too, people. Yeah, so. Any other questions? What do you, let's get you the mic, because otherwise I'll get yelled at. Yeah, hand those out. If we run out, I've got more back there. My wife is the keeper of these coins. It's like a John Wick coin. It gets you into hotels you don't even know yet. It's a secret society.
She won't shoot anyone for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on the note of our collapsing fish club, I heard it used to exist before 2020. If you were a young person trying to revive a fish club that's currently just a Facebook group, what would your first steps be? What would your considerations be? How would you go about initializing that?
Yeah, so the question is, I heard the club was around pre-2020. How would we revitalize it as a young person? How do we take it from a Facebook group back to a physical meeting, basically? And one, you got to drum up some helpers. And if you drum up 10, 8 of them will desert you when it's like, oh, that conflicts with I was gonna make a sandwich tomorrow. That was work, right? So you'll have one ride or die person that's trying to make this club work. Really, what you gotta do is you gotta get that. Then you gotta bamboozle a store owner or something, somewhere we can get free space to start. You gotta go, hey, somewhere we gotta meet, right? Somewhere we gotta meet. And you gotta promise them, like, don't worry, our people spend like $1,000. Meanwhile, you gotta spend like $100 and he'll be like, but I brought in stuff, I don't know. That's, once you have the first meeting and it's you, your ride or die person, and 2 people, and the meeting's a total failure, then you have to push on. That's where everyone, like, oh, I'm not gonna do all this work for nothing. You gotta push on. And then the next meeting, you got 3. But 1 repeat customer, 2 new people. Then the next meeting, you're like, oh my gosh, we're up to 6. And it's a pain to get the people to come in and speak. It's a pain to do all the things. If you're successful, now we need a treasurer. And we gotta make sure someone doesn't steal the money. And there's gonna be lots of people on Facebook still just going, it ain't gonna work. I don't drive that far. I'm angry, because that's what we do on Facebook. We've all had a bad day. And if you can get a backbone going, you bamboozle a store that somehow you convince them, like, no, it makes sense. Let's auction off stuff that I get no cut of. Long term, it does make sense for stores because it'll be a thriving community. You need a visionary to be like, I'm willing to invest to make money in 5 years. Most people won't. Most people won't because they're struggling. They can't. But that's how you get started. So you're strong arming someone like Darren and be like, hey, you got to bankroll this thing. I'm willing to spend too much time doing this. And my backup Because the minute you get sick or you have to go, or it's my friend's wedding and I can't make the event, it crashes again. If you can pull that off for 6 or 8 months, you then will get the OGs. Dean's the one that comes out of the woodwork like, I've been a member for 72 years. I'm not willing to do the work, but I will meet and greet every person who walks through that door. I will bring fish. I will bring plants. And that's what actually makes a club work. People think it's the speakers. They're a bonus. It's actually meet up and trade plants, trade fish, auction them. Maybe someone's got some meds, like how do you fix this? All that kind of stuff. That's actually the magic of the club. Someone like me, it's like, oh, you might get 3 more. You might get Flynn. Flynn might show up, even though he would never show up before, but because I demanded he be here. And then there's a chance you hoodwink them into coming again. And so that's what speakers do. Speakers actually grow your membership. But in the scheme of things, it's the people. Because you need, isn't Larry a corridor breeder? You got to talk to that guy. Isn't this person winning aquascape competition? You got to talk to that person. And it's those connections that make the club. And so even when you are sick and you can't make it, people are like, well, where was Steve? Where was Lisa? And you got to shame them for not showing up, and they have to have a good reason, an actual good reason. And so that's how you revive it. And so it's basically like starting a business where you won't make money. It sucks. It's a lot of work, and if you do your job right, there'll be someone that rides the glory, and you helped, that phoenix rises from the ashes, and it'll sail for a while until the wrong person gets to be president and runs it straight into the ground and spends all the money you guys spent 8 years raising up, and then the next cycle will happen. And that's what happens at clubs. And if you're really good, you get bylaws, you get lawyers, you get stuff that can prevent that from happening. To write a check, you have to have 2 people sign. There's been clubs that have lost $100,000 before where it's just like someone cleaned it out and they moved to Mexico. Gone. Boom. That's a long way from where you are right now, but if we went around the room and just talked like, what are you breeding? What do you have extra of? There's gonna be people like, I would kill to have that. I like that. What are you doing? We had 3 people in the middle of an aisle. We are all interested in breeding a mono shrimp. 2 of us had a monolarva shrimp right now. Like you wouldn't know that. Like there's gonna be common occurrences between you and you have no idea. You have no idea like, oh, you're into brown fish too? Me too. Like that's the power of a club, and it makes no sense for a store owner, because if you just look at it in the short term, oh, you gave them a tank? Well, now they're not going to buy a tank from you. You did this, but the long term, we're bringing more people in, the pie gets bigger. And so I'm always a let's make the pie bigger guy instead of let me get more of the pie that's there. And there's lots of, a real CEO just says, I want all the pie. I go, let's make 2 pies. Let's make a bigger pie. And so it is a hard road, though. I don't want to sell it like, oh, it's easy, because it's not. Otherwise, you guys would have it. It would be here. If it was easy, it would be here. But usually, you will get some of the old brass that comes back to help. They don't want to lead it, but they will support you if you can make it at least a few months in a row. They got to make sure that it's not like, it's a good idea, because who hasn't said, I could run a fish store, I want to open a fish store? Everybody. Turns out it's really hard. And same thing with running a club. It is really hard, because you're going to get like, why is this guy got to be grumpy? Why are they so pissed we didn't bring in an African cichlid speaker, where they won't do any work to help you find one, but I'm angry you haven't had one. I think we should do saltwater. I want to hear about oxalotls. You're going to have everybody giving their input to run this little business without offering the help. And sometimes they offer the help, but it's the person you don't want the help from. Like, I can barely be in the same room. I'm not sure I can sit in a meeting with you. Like, your helping is killing me. So you got to get the right group of people that have your best interests in mind. You start paying some dues. You start going, yeah, I'm willing to give 25% of what it sells for at the auction to the club, because then you can fly a speaker out. You can do these things. And you have to donate your time. I mean, I'm here for free. I paid for my own hotel room. Now, Darren sells our products and stuff like that, but lots of other stores do too, and I don't go there. I come here because you guys have a good community. You're within driving distance. Darren's a good person. I know I get to have long talks with him, and I'm pretty sure I can twist his arm to do things that are good for the hobby, because he tells me I'm doing this because it's good for the hobby. You might not know it, but Darren was a hobbyist who bought, in my opinion, a failing fish store. And he's been on a fast track to try and learn and do things that are good for the hobby. If he was just trying to make money, you don't put in a quarantine room. The money's made on selling medicines and selling you a fish a second time and all of that. And so you also don't hire a biologist to get the fish healthy. That's just losing money. Like, the goal is, you've seen it in stores, you've probably been in a store, fish went in, out of a bag, into the tank, and then someone bought it 3 minutes later. Like, it's, yeah. So if you're real serious and you can commit time, you can find a backup and a few other people, and just know 10 people will raise their hand, but only 3 might show up to actually do when the work happens. Or they're like, well, I want to be president. If I can't be president, I'm not helping at all. Like, there's always going to be attitudes. And I've been a part of many clubs. There's always attitudes. You also got to go, well, you're crazy, but I'm willing to deal with it because you do that well. You do that well, and you do mean well. And, you know, we're all volunteers in that organization. Everyone's on the same foot, and that means something. And so it's one of the most powerful things. It brings wicked cool stuff into the area. You can do group buys. You can get speakers that will bring fish here. You can do all of that. And so, you know, it takes a village. And you all can donate in different ways. Some spend a lot of money at Darren's, and if he's providing the space, hey, you're pitching in. Some might be breed a bunch of fish and sell it to Darren. You're pitching in. Might be make a bunch of plants and put them through the auction. You're pitching in. Because now the club has the money to fly in the speaker, right? And that's how you make connections. And that's how you got to make it win for everybody. I talk about that a lot. I have to win, the store has to win, and you guys have to win. If you're taking advantage, if anyone's getting taken advantage of, you guys, you won't come anymore. If the store's going, we lose $1,000 every time we have it, they won't put it on anymore, right? And the speaker won't come, there's nothing for them to gain. So you have to think in your mind, like, it can't be bad for the store. We got to make sure we're bringing in new hobbyists. And my rule that I just happen to have, and I try to make everybody live by this, if you ever visit anybody's fish store, even if it's the worst fish store you've ever been to, I try to spend money. A packet of food, a soda, something. You're inside someone's dream. They wanted to open up a pet store, and they're trying their hardest. You might go, they never looked up off their phone, their store is terrible, whatever. But at one point, that was the best thing they ever wanted to do in their life, and they've been struggling. I can find something in a store, like, yep, I normally buy this Akari food, I'll buy it here this one time. I might not come back, but it's the same philosophy. If I go use a restroom at a gas station, I'll buy a candy bar. They wouldn't have been there. They're not there to have free restrooms, they're there to sell things. I will buy something. And I will reward the place I like. I'll buy lots of things. I'll buy lots of fish. But that's my own personal philosophy. And I've been to the point where I'm living off Top Ramen. And guess what? I just wouldn't go to the stores. I just didn't. Or I'd be coming in trying to trade, or I call ahead. There's always a way to make it so that maybe I help, like Dean. Dean, a lot of times, he'll sell more fish than my employees will. Oh, you're into that? Let me tell you why this is cool. I've bred it 1,000,000 times, all of this. You could be helping with that too. You don't have to beg the fish, but you could be like, I bought that last time, it did really well in my tank. You literally just helped the store, and you got to come in here, it's tranquil, serene, you get to talk fish, you get to maybe stumble upon somebody who's into what you're into, and stuff happens all the time. Like, you're into that? Yeah. How about I come over to your house and I get some of those? That happens all the time, and this space that costs thousands of dollars facilitates that. We all know it goes on. As a store, we can't encourage it because it'll put us out of business. But if we go out of our way to support our local stores, they will be around. And that, you won't realize, if you're new to the hobby, you don't know what it's like to live in a place that doesn't have local stores. You know, you have a Big Al's or something, and you'll realize, like, oh, the hobby dies at an incredible rate without a local store because there's nothing new. What's on the planogram? It's like, yep, these fish will be the same fish every year at that chain store until they make a high-level decision. Where you can come into this store. I literally saw a fish over there in a display tank I've never seen in my life. It was a leucistic emperor tetra. And I thought it was so cool. I'm like, wow, I've seen albinos, but that's got the blue eye. I love a blue eye fish. And so I see a lot of stuff, and even here I've seen multiple things I've never seen before. You won't see that at a chain store. You'll see like, yeah, of course you guys made a change, and now you bring in, maybe it's albino rainbow sharks, and you'll do that for the next 5 years, whatever. But I also want to make sure that I realize I'm saying, like, spend all your money, support all the people, and I'm a corporation. I do that because as a hobbyist, when you watch your stores close down, your hobby sucks. There's nowhere to meet up. There's no one to meet. You breed a fish, and you're like, what do I even do with it now? I've got too many plant clippings. I'm just throwing them away. I'm going to try selling them online. Turns out people online suck. Okay, I'm not doing that. Facebook hates me. You can't even tell Facebook you're going to sell a fish. They won't let you, you know? So it's the local community. If you embrace it, and there's whole subcultures, like at our meeting, I'll go, my wife comes, and then there's a bunch of other wives and husbands talking about plants and other stuff. They're not even the fish nerds. They're just like, yeah, we went out because we're going out to dinner afterwards or what else. And so it gives you something to do. Get out of the house once a month, commit to it. It's healthy for you. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't get out of the house enough. We go to work, we do those things, but we sit at home, we're online, we're not really in person with people, we're not talking about hobbies. Some of you are lucky, and maybe you got 5 hobbies, and life is great, and you're always out and about, but most of us, I think, don't have hobbies that actually get us in the rooms with other people. That is becoming a rarer and rarer thing. And so the fact that you can roll into a fish store and kind of nerd out with other people, the fact that you could put on a whole club event if you wanted to, that is powerful, and not every hobby can do that, right? And so what I want for people is, if you're into cars, go to, whatever parking lot all the car people are gonna hang out. You're just gonna do that, the fish version of that, and that can go on for years and years and years and years. And you have kids, you introduce them, you get your grandson, you get your niece, your nephew, whoever, you bring them with them because now they're 8 years old or whatever, and they get their first thing. I know I've bought fish at auctions that I don't even keep. I was bidding against a kid who was 11. So once I won, I gave it to him, and I said, when you breed those, please give me some. And he did. And he brought them to my store, he traded them in, and then he bred rams. So he went from Goodyear live bears, then he did rams, and then he traded rams, and then he did discus. And you're going, this is insane. How did this kid do this? Both parents are doctors, and they're very attention to detail oriented, and they had passed that down to their kid, and they had set up a system where the kid doesn't know how to do an automatic water change, but they set it up so that if he puts pitchers of water into the tank, it'll overflow out, and they refuse to help him. If he didn't change water, they didn't get a water change. And so it taught so much to that kid, to the point where he was interested. He could have bought any fish at all. He wanted specifically these Goodyears, and so did I, and I would have spent any amount of money. And we had 300 plus people. I didn't know I was being against a kid. Once I found out, because he came over and was like, oh, when you breed those, let me know. And I was like, oh, how about you breed them and you let me know? And then that built a much larger relationship. And so it's that you won't get online, you won't see it, and it makes me feel good. You'll feel good too. You don't know it yet, but you'll feel good. And there's highs and lows when it comes to the club, but there's way more highs than there are lows. And yeah, everyone will fight. I only have Tuesdays off. I only have Saturdays. There's always going to be wrong things, but once it keeps going, your life changes. Hey, now I can make it. Hey, now we're recording it. Now we're doing this. You can always be a part of something that's really cool, to be a part of something that is 10, 20, 30 years old. There's not too many things you do in your life where, outside of having a kid, that you're like, I've done this thing. Your longest living dog and cat's only like 20 maybe. You start going past that with some of these groups you've been a part of, and it's something special. So, and it doesn't exist. Most people aren't going to work at the same place for 30, 40, 50 years anymore. You don't get to know. You'll start knowing, like, people on the board, they had a baby. I watched them graduate college. Like, it's a crazy thing to be like, that human didn't exist. Then I remember when you were screaming at the back of the fish clubs and annoying me, And then I remember when you were the runner and you would deliver the fish to the people buying them and tripping and being loud and goofing off. And then you remember when, oh my gosh, why aren't they here? Well, they went off to college now, you know, and so you get to know these people more than just fish. So I'll get off my soapbox, but it's kind of one of the most important things I've been a part of and kept me in the hobby. And I got away for a few years. I've been back. You can always come back. There's always open arms at a fish club, and you can show up to any club meeting, and it's that way. So my first was an ALA, American Library Convention, and I flew there. And it was awesome because there was a bunch of other fish nerds who all love libraries, and I did too. And I saw stuff I never saw. I had conversations. I saw celebrities. I remember seeing Rusty Wessel was there. Ted, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head. Ted Judy was there. And so if you guys go, oh my gosh, Cory's here. I was doing the same thing with different people. Same thing. So if you can get a local club and you can offer any expertise, maybe you're good at math, maybe you're good at organizing, maybe you're good at saying hello, maybe you're just, I can send the emails. If everybody pitches in, you can get it done, and your stores will thrive, you'll thrive, you'll get cooler stuff. Everything about the hobby that you like will just get better. So, yeah. If you're not motivated to help, well then, I don't know what to tell you, but at least you'll get the benefit when the other people do. So, yeah.
Somebody who's done it.
Yes, well, I didn't want to throw Dave under the bus back there, but he ran the club for like 30 years here, and no, he could never pass the torch of like, who else can give me a break? And so that's how I know, like, you get some months under your belt, people that have run things for that long can't help but want to see it thrive again. They can't help but want that. But I also know it's not fair to ask someone who did it for 30 years, can you do another 30? Like, it's not fair. So you can have them be an advisor, a mentor, and I'm sure, like anything, you know, you can imagine if your neighbor gets an aquarium, you're like, oh, that's cool, but pretty soon you're gonna be like, can I see it? Do you want some of this? You can't help but get involved in it. And once you get enough people involved in it, it's really hard for it to die. You gotta get the diversity in, you gotta grow it up, and then it self-sustains. And so, you know, you need some of the younger people, you need some of the new blood to go, we wanna make this thing. And then you can have some of the old guard, the old crusty guys and girls in the back in the corners that know a lot, that don't talk to people, to go, I'm watching you fail at that. You know, there's a trick for that, right? Like, here's how you get people to show up, here's how you get people to spend money, here's how you run an auction, and they can help you. So, yes, good point, Dave.
All right, I've been dying to ask you this.
Okay.
How many bronze corridoras can I put in a 20-gallon tank? I'm kidding. No, a question about the archerfish, the clouded archerfish you used to keep. They used to be behind you on a lot of your older content. What's your opinion on them? Why did you move on from them?
Yeah, so he's asking about clouded archerfish, which are the true freshwater archerfish. I was able to get them. They were expensive. I kept them in the tank behind me for so many years. I really enjoyed them. Sometimes people ask me like, well, why'd you get rid of the thing if you enjoyed it? Part of my job is entertaining people, so that's one element of it. The other element of it is I live, eat, and breathe it every day. And so if you make your favorite sandwich every day, you start getting tired of it. Like, but it's your favorite sandwich. Like, yeah, but I literally have had it every lunch for 3 weeks, and now you want anything else. And so, do I think they're amazing fish? Yes. If you handed me some right now, would I put them back in the tank? I would, yes. They are amazing fish, but I don't want them every day, day in, day out. I feel the same way about clown loaches. There's a lot of fish I work with, but I love them, but I want variety. I don't want the same burrito every dinner. I want some variety in it, and typically for me, like in my big tank, I can go a month to 18 months before I want to see a change, because you guys might see a 20-minute video. You didn't see we spent 8 hours filming it, getting the macro footage, doing the thing, and like we're overdosing on it basically. And I think that when you get rid of something, it gives you the chance to do it again different. And so like if I brought them back, they're only coming back in a paludarium. And I'm dumping crickets into a thing that lets them crawl in, and I'm only watching them shoot them down because that's awesome. And so I would build it from the get-go totally different. But when it's in there, you're not going to go, well, it's working. You just won't do the next project. And so the other thing that happens is every once in a while you'll meet someone like, where'd you get them? I really would love to have them. And if I'm not feeling like I'm the luckiest person in the world to own them right now, why not sell them to somebody else? And I have that philosophy with fish. If you don't absolutely love the fish you're keeping, it's probably time for you to move on to something else. Like, I love my dogs, I love my wife, there's things I will never get rid of. But then there's the next fish of like, yeah, I bred it. It was kind of cool. You know, sometimes I want to breed a splash tetra because I'd never done it before. But the minute I've done it, I was like, well, I figured out that puzzle. You don't sit at home, mix up a puzzle, do it, and then tomorrow mix up the same puzzle and do it. You've already solved the puzzle. And so you want new puzzles. And I love that aspect of it. And so when I meet someone else that goes, I've been looking for that puzzle. Where did you get it? How can you get some for me? And I go, I'll tell you what, I'll make your day. How about, I think I sold my group of them for like $500 or $600 to the guy, and he was stoked. He'd been looking for so long. I remember many weekends in a row, he would bring me food from his Thai restaurant as a thank you. And it was the best food ever. And it's infectious to see somebody fall in love with a fish again. And if you're having problems where you're like, I'm burning out, you're hanging out with the wrong people, you're not keeping the right stuff, that's one of the reasons I like to hang out with Dean. Hang out with people that are in love with the hobby. You will fall back in love with the hobby if you're falling out. And if you just do the same thing every day, you're gonna get bored. You gotta drive further. You gotta go to the next story. You gotta go to the next thing. You gotta see, you gotta do the thing you haven't done. You gotta try the new restaurant you've never eaten at before. How do you know it's not the best one? How do you know if 10 more minutes away isn't the fish you've been looking for that you didn't know existed? And so when you can get Dean, he is a guy that always wants to. You wanna do this? Yes. If it's fish related, you could ask him anything? Yes. It's just default yes, because he figured out that you don't know until you get there, and you were looking for rams, and it turns out you found the world's best guppy over there, and now you're doing that. And being open to what you can find out there is important. And if you're not in love with what you're doing, change it up. That's the biggest thing. People go, well, how do you struggle and keep these things? And people feel guilty. Like, I bought this animal. Like, that animal's going to live 30 years. You bought a pleco. It's 30 years of your life. Why not get it to somebody who would love it? Maybe it's the 14-year-old over there. Maybe it's my grandma. My grandma loves fish. Like, find someone who will love it as much as you loved it when you bought it. And for me, there's some fish that lasts a long time. My puffers tend to last a long time that way. There's different strains of, like shrimp. I pretty much have always had shrimp since I discovered they existed in like 2007 or whatever. But that's my litmus test. If I don't love it like the day I bought it, I've fallen out of love with it. Time to break up with that fish, get it to someone who will, and that creates a void that lets me go out on the hunt to find the new one. And that hunt is very fun for me. And maybe you got a different philosophy, that's fine. But if you're finding yourself struggling like, oh yeah, that tank, I used to love it. I'm thinking about taking it down. Start taking it down, start getting rid of the fish. And then one day you're gonna fall in love with like, oh, maybe I will try to hatch out those Amano shrimp. Maybe I will do this thing. So that's my advice on why don't I keep clouded archers? I guarantee you I will keep clouded archers again in the future, but it'll be some happenstance. I'll see someone else display, I gotta do that, I gotta live that. That looks challenging. Or it's a paludarium or whatever. I love the puzzle. I don't wanna do the same puzzle every day. And most often with YouTube for me, people are like, but why aren't you into the puzzle I like doing? Like, I don't know, I don't do flower puzzles. I do car puzzles. But I like flower puzzles. I'm sure you do. And I might like flower puzzles next year. I'm into this one. And so I find a lot of people that will say things like, I don't want to keep that fish, it's a beginner fish, or it's too common. And I always ask like, so you don't want to keep the fish that everybody else in the room think is awesome. Let's reframe that. Everybody in the room just took a bite of cake. Oh my God, this is the best cake I've ever had. And you're going, I don't like the good cake. I only take the burnt ones, right? And so we can experience everything over the next 30, 40, 50 years. You can have all the cakes. You can have all the fish. You've got infinite time to play with the things and don't feel bad. Like, I'm not telling you, don't throw the fish on the ground and kill them. Find someone else who loves it as much as you do. Imagine you bought if you go out to dinner with everybody, you take a bite of your meal, I didn't realize it was gonna have cilantro or whatever thing you won't eat. You instantly, with your friends, are like, do you want it? Someone eat this. Like this, I don't want it to go to waste. I feel the same way about fish. I don't want them to go to waste, but I also don't want it for dinner today. And so I will then order something else and I will keep the conversation going and I will have fun. And yeah, so don't burn out. If you're burning out, you've either got too many tanks, you haven't made enough friends, you're not going to enough fish meetings, you're not going to the fish store. As you pull back from each one, you will get further and further away from this hobby, whether you know it or not. You can't fall in love with something at the store if you don't go to the store. So, yeah.
Cory, just want to thank you for your contribution to the hobby and your time up here, and Darren for hosting. Thanks a lot. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on the use of fulvic acid as a benefit of blackwater without actually having blackwater? I know Dan's Fish has used it in the past, and Scheller's Aquatics has been using it for years.
Yeah, so the question is was it folic acid? Was that specific acid?
Fulvic acid.
Say it again?
Fulvic.
Fulvic acid,
Yeah.
yes. Using fulvic acid to replicate blackwater conditions. My thing about modifying water conditions, I need to like make a tinfoil hat, so just know that I got a tinfoil hat on. I believe we collectively have crushed ourselves with online information that has been replicated without being studied enough, and you will say things like, this apisto will only breed at this pH. This thing will only happen here. You can't do this. Anything you've ever seen me do has basically been in tap water with maybe crushed coral, so I don't crash the pH. I want stability, but I do a lot of things like that fish doesn't breed that low. Like my fish room science is showing you it does, and so I'm not a big fan of messing with the water. The only time I remember really doing it was breeding crystal shrimp. I tried so many times without using ADA soil, because it was like $100 a bag, and that's BS. Like, that's way too expensive. I tried knockoffs. I tried normal. I tried 3 different people's locally bred crystal shrimp. I could keep them alive, but I could not breed them. I finally said, all right, before I give up, I'm gonna try the way that everyone said I have to do it. And I did use ADA soil, and then I was breeding them. That is the only time I've ever actually run into it. All the apistos, all the teniotis I've done, all the things I've ever done, and there was a lot of fish before I was ever on YouTube. Like most of I am now officially, by my club, a master breeder of fish. Almost all of that happened before I was ever on YouTube. And there was a long break where I was breeding fish, but since I ran the program, I'm not gonna certify that I bred the fish. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna name myself a master. But the whole time, I only like working with fish that I'm not altering it. So does it work? Yes. Do farms do it? Yes. Is it doable? Yes. I think it makes it more complicated for the average hobbyist. But if you ask me, do you think you need to get pH and hardness and stuff right for most things? I would say, not in my experience. And even when you go to Peru and other climates around the world, the book says that this water should be this temperature and it should be this hardness and it should be this. Like we would probably all think, right? Angelfish. Well, they come from the Amazon, acidic water, stuff like that. You bring test strips and kits with you and you're like, pH is 7.4. That doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, because they took the reading at higher water or lower water. They're taking one small snapshot from one famous person becomes a rule. And they're not looking at it like, well, you can watch a corridora go from 86-degree water right at the shore this far away, down deep in the water. When you walk it, you're going, I can feel it getting colder as I walk it, and we're terrified that we change water and that the water is 2 or 3 degrees different. And as I'm sitting there, because it's just too hot, and I'm watching the corridoras, I finally was like, my hands had all these impressions. I was like, wait, the gravel is sharp. And yet all these corridoras, and we were netting them, they had perfect marbles. But yet the internet says that's impossible. That can't be, has to be on fine sand, has to be on rounded gravel. And I believe that there is some truth in that sharp gravel could be bad. Maybe we were riding 20 or 30 years ago and we're feeding Wardley shrimp pellets. You put it in the water and just everywhere. Well, that corridora has to get eyeballs deep into the sharp gravel to get those morsels out because the food's not as good as it should be and it doesn't hold together. And you're gonna go, oh yeah, well when I scratch myself, there's a chance that it gets infected. Yes, that's true. And so if you're feeding bloodworms and it lands on top of sharp gravel and they just go and they slurp it up, they're not eyeballs deep in sharp knife things. So I think there's nuance in everything we do. And I think a lot of what happens on the internet, you get one person having success with a thing, they build a reputation. That becomes the only way to do it. And I know I have the power to do this because I can tell you guys something is misinformation. You'll start repeating it. And then I learned it was misinformation. I go, hey, this, I'm actually wrong. I've learned more. I can only tell you what I experienced today. In 10 years, it might be different. And so when we're using acids and things like that to get things to spawn, do I think it's fine for an advanced hobbyist? Yes. Do I start recommending it to new people? No. There's lots of products that you'll get a crunchy old breeder, as I like to call them, and they'll do a crazy thing, yet if you get that in your eye, you're going blind. You know, like and they know that, and they know the risk, but that didn't come with the disclaimer when they said this is how you do the thing. And so I would much rather people find how to do it naturally, because most often it can. And there's even big talks, like I have some of the shrimp judges and things, they're starting to see crystal shrimp breeding in the 7s and other things around the world. It just so happened that the country they came from had super soft water in the ponds, and that's what they were used to. Another example I can bring back from our history, discus. Discus can only be in soft water. What about Stenker discus from Germany that only like higher pH and hardness? Someone worked to make it do that. That was an impossible scenario until someone did it. And so we got to be very careful when I can ask you, how did you do that thing? Awesome. How did you make that cake? I'm going to try to do that too. Is that the only way to make the cake? No. But if I don't know how to make a cake, I'm going to start with the recipe, and then I'm going to start going, but I don't like raisins in my carrot cake. Let's leave those out. I do like this. And so I try to have an open mind, and I tell people, this is how I've done it. I've seen it done a million different ways. I don't know what way you'll have success with, but hopefully you'll know there is a bunch of ways, and it's not the only way. When I was new to the hobby, I would say things like, anyone could breed bristlenose, because it was so easy for me. And then I would run into people like, you can't breed bristlenose? I can't stop bristlenose breeding. But they might not be feeding enough, or they might not, well, I don't have a dedicated cave, or I don't even know how to sex them, male and female. I don't, and then the next step is, well, I'm losing my males because they're trapping the eggs, they're not getting enough food. You run into all these things depending on the species. And so I know that even in my career, I would say things as fact, and then I would learn they're basically not fact, and there's almost no real facts anymore. There's facts in the time, as in, it's true today. That doesn't mean I can even replicate it sometimes. Sometimes you have fish that are so hard to spawn, like an Altum angel, and you get these crazy methods, and it worked once, but you have the best people in the world and they can't replicate it. To me, that's not the only way it can be done, because you can't even replicate it. So, and we're talking about people that'll buy $40,000 worth of Altum angels and never be able to spawn them in big facilities with teams of people, and that's why you can't just buy. And yet, there are some captive raised Altums out there. They have been done, but no one's got it figured out. They've got, one guy did it once using this thing. If I put Werther's Original and I spawn something that doesn't ever spawn, and you can't get it to do it, you're gonna, it makes no sense. And if it happens to spawn that time, now it's a rule. So I'm not a big fan of altering water. I always say, try to keep it healthy, keep your natural water. you'll have a much better time, the less doctoring you have to do, the less time I spend playing with things and enjoying the fish. That's what I enjoy. And when you go to sell it, so imagine you breed this fish and use the acid. Well, it's harder to get it to thrive in other people's water that aren't going to do that. You have to wean them off of it. You got to bring the pHs up. And that happens a lot, where you can breed something, but like it'll just drop dead over there. I gotta bring it up slowly. There's a lot of fish that, in theory, the eggs only hatch at certain pH, and then you gotta raise them up. Oftentimes, I find that's not what happened to me. But we're blessed here. We have pretty good water. So, you know, my experience, if I had to live somewhere I had different water, might be completely different. So that's my take. But it, again, that doesn't mean it's a fact. There's another guy, next guy behind me sits in a chair. Like, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's just been my experience. And yeah, I try to use, my philosophy in general, use the least amount of chemicals possible. I sell chemicals and I say, use the least amount possible. If you don't have to use the chlorinator, great. If you can make enough fish poop and your plants look amazing, don't use Easy Green. Most of us can't, but if you can, hey, don't use them. I like to feed a lot. I like to change water. I like to clean tanks. I like to make fish healthy. Whatever gets me there is what I'm going to do. And so I try naturally first. Nature can pull off a lot of things. Humans are very adaptive. Animals are very adaptive. Most often, I watch the adaptation happen. I think we fail more, not because our tank is wrong, but because the fish wasn't healthy through all the people that touched it by the time it got to us. It sat at that wholesaler for a month and a half and didn't get fed. It was too cold over here. It overheated on the tarmat over here. It did this thing over there. Or I've got this fish bullying it. Or it's got the wrong diet. That is more often the culprit than did you use the magic powder, the magic thing. And so I find the closer I keep my tanks to being normal, the easier it is for me. You live over here, I raise you over here, I do this, and not have to go, oh, did I put too much of the chemical in? Did I kill everything? So it's worked well for me and everything I've bred. Dean's the same way. When you ask, like, what are you using? Nothing, you know? And, you know, he's much older than I am. There was a lot more fish that no one really knew. We didn't know that, oh, there's different species or different sizes, collection points of things like brine shrimp eggs, and they hatch out to be different sizes, and that matters on the fish you're trying to raise up. And so as time goes on, we have access to more copepods, more cultures, and it just gets easier to do these things. So yeah, that's my spiel on chemicals and acid in general.
Has there ever been a type of fish that you've wanted to breed, but just for whatever reason you struggle with it? And how did you kind of work through that process? And
yeah, so the question is, have there ever been fish that I've wanted to breed that I couldn't? Yes, lots. That happens all the time. And so one thing I work on lots of projects. Some are time. You need time. Like if you buy zebra plecos today, great, you're 2 to 3 years out before they'll even think about breeding. So I start that project today knowing in 2 or 3 years I'll be real happy when I can work on them. So some of it's time. Some you can't get healthy specimens. Some, like I bought, you guys might have seen the platinum mollies, balloon mollies. Not a single fry from the country they come from. It's not uncommon for them to be sterilized before they get shipped out, because if I breed them, no one buys them from that country. And so that goes a lot, you know, it can go on in reptile world and that kind of stuff. You can use hormones. Depending on the country you buy a fish from, it might be hormoned up and it'll basically never breed in your care. So that kind of stuff can happen. Then there's stuff like, I don't want to be like Cory knows all, and it's just if the fish won't breed, there's something wrong with it. Sometimes I can't figure it out. And there's fish I've kept that no one spawned before. But in general, my approach is if they're not making fry for me or laying eggs for me, what is it that would make them more comfortable? Are they getting enough food? Are they getting bullied by someone? Is the temperature what they want? Or do they want something different? Like angelfish is an example. If you want angelfish to breed all the time, keep them at 78. If you want them to stop fighting and stop breeding, keep them at 73, 74. They're real docile, because when the temp gets that high, that's breeding season. When it drops down a few degrees, we're done. We go to being nice again. And so sometimes Yes, you want to ask your friends, you ever bred this? What am I missing? What's going on? In general, though, the one thing that works, consistency. So I can say this. I have never intentionally bred a convict cichlid. I have also made several thousand convict cichlids, but I've bought them. I've bought cool strains, marbles with high orange and things like that, and I've tried to spawn them in aquariums and they will not. I literally, after 8 months, gave up, took them to the pet store I worked at, and neglected them down in a corner, and they were very expensive, no one else would buy them, and they were breeding. And I've done that so many times, normal pink convicts, but I've tried 2 or 3 times to specifically breed convict cichlids in my care. Why have I failed? Because they're so easy. Get to breeding, do your thing. I can ignore you and you'll breed. I wasn't respecting the fish. I wasn't making them comfortable. Everyone knows, like, yeah, convicts, anyone can breed a convict. And because I didn't treat them like I would treat the rarest fish on the planet, they wouldn't breed for me. And so, yes, I have run into, even it's like I've made thousands of these at a store, I couldn't replicate the success at home. And, you know, convicts, I was able, and so I do hold myself to a high standard. For like my breeder program, if I accidentally breed something, it doesn't count. I have to intentionally breed it to get points. Because accidentally doing a thing, when people go, how'd you do it? I did it on accident. Can you tell me how to do it? I can't. And so if I can't tell you how I did it, I don't count it. And so that's why I don't count that I've bred intentionally convict cichlids. Although I have made a ton, and I've got some tips, like here's how I've seen it work, but yet I never gave them the fair shake at home. Because I'd always bring them home, I just wanted the BAP points. I just wanted to breed them and get my points for them. Everybody gets convict points. Not this guy. I don't have convict points because of that. And so, yeah, you'll run into things. You'll see Dean breed a lot of stuff, and like plecos and other stuff that I'll buy, because going back to an earlier conversation, I don't love that fish as much as the day I bought it. It's been 13 months. Dean, take these leopard frogs, take these candy striped plecos, these types of things. And then we've had the same thing where he gets bored of stuff. It comes to my house and starts breeding, you know. It can, sometimes just a change of scenery. Sometimes it's, I love it like the day, it's the first day, and you're tired of going, I bought you 2 years ago, why won't you do the thing? And yeah, so yeah, there's been a lot of fish that I haven't necessarily had success with. And there's other ones where like orange corridor lasers, I've done it 3 times in 3 different ways with 3 different houses, like in 3 different waters. So what's the right way to do it? Any of those 3, honestly. Like it's not just one way. I've also bought them before where it's like, ooh, that'd be really cool. Like I bought some for a pond when I had all the ponds. Well, I had so much going on, I never made sure they were happy, so they never bred. Once I put them, and then I started breeding them in a 10-gallon. I've bred them in a 40-gallon. I've done these things, but I really wanted to win, and how can I make them happy? And that's what led to me winning. And so for me, it's a respect thing. I wasn't respecting the fish, and like each one, if you haven't, like a convict, for instance, if you haven't seen a convict that's been raised up as a specimen, so 1 convict, 1 tank, the trailer fins are this long. It's one of the most beautiful fish you've ever seen. You just never see it. It's always beaten on or getting beat on by another fish in every other tank you've ever seen it. But the specimen fish itself is mind-blowingly good. And so they act like almost 2 completely different fish. One's always beating on stuff. The other one's a puppy in your aquarium. It's a solo pet fish, and it looks amazing. And we so rarely get to see it outside of a club bowl show or something like that. Or you got to go to the ACA, American Cichlid Association convention, and it gets entered into that class, and you go, well, had I known the fish could look this good, I would keep those. So, yeah, there's been a lot of fish that I haven't bred, and maybe it's like playing baseball or something. The best hitters still only like hit 40% of the time. They're like, you have to take a lot of at bats to get. Some fish we can't even sex. You know, you're like, I'm not even sure if I actually have males and females yet. And it takes years. And then you go, I ended up with all males. Like Dean, here's a product for Dean. Dean's got blue phantom plecos. He's made 2 babies. He started with 10 fish. He's down to about 7. He's convinced he must only have males. People, when they hear about it, they're like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of anyone else actually spawning these. Yet he's only ever made 2 and he can't make more, and he thinks he lost the 1 female he might have had, but they're so hard to sex and there's so little information on who's had success that, do you even chalk that up to, you did it? Was it intentional? Kind of, he bought them. Can you replicate it though? No. So it's like, oh, so is that a failure or is that a win? It's kind of both. Like, hey, you're on the right track. You're still in the journey, but he honestly believes he's gonna sell them to a collector or something, because he's like, I don't think I have females, and I had to grow them out for years to get the females big enough. And when you're buying the fry, or the smallest collected ones, you don't know if they're male or female yet. So not every project works out. That's why it feels so much sweeter when it does. And so, Dean's tried zebra plecos like 4 times. At about the 2-year mark, like clockwork, he cooks them with a bad heater every time. He's got the worst luck possible. The last time, he thought he had it all figured out. They literally cooked to death while he was out of the country. Nothing he could do, So even some of the people that we hold in high regard, they're pretty good at what they do. Stuff just goes wrong, And so there's been quite a few fish that don't pan out. Then there's things where, like, I never thought I would breed this. I can't believe it's doing it. Yeah, I had my first larva of a mono shrimp floating in the tank this week. I've kept a mono shrimp for the last 15 years. And yeah, I harvested them, and I'm sure they're dead now because no one's feeding them while I'm away, these larvae. But that's a first for me, even though I've been keeping it for 15 years. And I'm a guy that, like, at any one point, I own probably 1,000 of mono shrimp between the store, the plant tanks, the warehouse, my own tanks. And yet I've now seen the larva in my tank twice, because they did it, and then they all got eaten up, and then they did it again 2 days later, a different female, let them all go. I knew it was happening, but I never witnessed it. And so sometimes it's just being around more. I definitely have had times where it's, yep, you walk in, you feed, you walk out, you got life. And then there's times where it's like, oh, I spent 8 hours that day. You start seeing things that you don't see other times. That's real important. My mentor that built my store and helped me with a lot, and he's a beekeeper by trade. He's one of the few beekeepers that doesn't send any of his bees to get the money from pollinating almonds and things like that and bringing the diseases back. But in his younger version of himself, he ran a fish farm. He worked in pet stores, ran his own fish farm in California, and he would make the best guppies I ever seen. He would do it in 10-gallon tanks. He would break every rule you've ever heard. And he had one rule. His one rule was, you have to touch the nature. He also ran a successful bonsai nursery. He goes, it doesn't matter what animal, what plant, if you're not touching it, you'll never figure it out. You gotta get your hands wet. You gotta put the food in. You gotta look at the fish. You gotta do the thing. You can't just go, yeah, I watched the glass box. Like, you gotta touch it. How many times have we trimming plant? Oh, I think there's a fry. Oh, there's a thing. Oh, I'm getting some algae here. Once you're inside of it, you notice so much more. If you're just feeding from the outside, you miss so much of what's going on. And that rule, I never saw it fail him. He would breed so many things. He would do, these guppies were mind-blowing, and he would keep an amount that would blow your mind, but he was willing to water change by hand every single day. He would take pitchers of water out. He would water all his rare plants in his house, and then he'd put fresh water in. That was part of his routine. That's what he did. And we worked on other things that were pretty cool, but they were super messy. Like, he had lots of access to bee pollen and bee grubs. Bee grubs is like a superfood in the world. Well, you grind that up and you mix it with Repashy, you have the world's best fish food pretty much, but it looks like a bomb went off in your tank. But the colors, how many fry would come out of these fish was insane. And so I think it's a very important lesson. You gotta touch it. You can't be like, oh yeah, I'm a farmer, but I never touch the animals. Like that, you're not a farmer anymore. You might be the guy that oversees the staff that does it, but if you're not touching the nature, you don't really know anything about it. You know, you gotta, and by touching, some people take that literally. Like, I'm not saying you touch your fish every day, but your hands got to get wet. You got to get inside the tank. You got to look in. You got to really be with it. You got to be there when it has the babies. You got to be there when it dies. You got to be there when it gets sick. You got to be there on the ups and downs, and you got to see everything in between. Because when you see them at their worst, you can now see them at their best. And if you see them at their best, you can identify when they're not doing so well. And that's really important. And I think what makes most good breeders, when you go, why is Dick Owl so good with discus? He spent a lot of time playing with discus, a lot of time. He knows he can spot from across the room that's been underfed. That didn't get enough water changes. That has the wrong genetics. And because he lived, eat, and breathed it, it basically paid for a lot of stuff in his hobby over the years. But that, when I analyze what makes someone a super breeder with a species, they usually just have years on everybody else. I nerded out on this thing for way too long. That's how I know so much about it. I watched him die. I watched him. The only reason I can keep fish relatively healthy is I've killed more than all of you. I've killed so many fish because I have to bring them into stores. I have to get them healthy. And I get chances every day. I could look at a disease. I can see things. You only get to experience really what's in your home. So I'm, you know, everybody thinks when they go, I'm going to work at a fish store, I know so much. You don't realize that you know almost nothing. A week in a fish store is like a month as a hobbyist. You work a year at a fish store and you know more than people that have been in the hobby 5, 6, 7 years. Because every day, I got this problem, how do you solve it? You're, by proxy, kind of keeping thousands of aquariums. Is this experiment going to work? Did I give them good advice? Let me get the feedback loop. You only have what you can read online. You have what you did in your aquarium. You have your notes. And that's really what you got. So you almost have horse blinders on. That can be good and bad. But yeah, it's the experience that separates most of us. And you can have someone who's 12 that's been keeping guppies for 5 years. They know more than the person who's doing it for 1 year and they're 30. Like it's time with the animal, you learn more. And yeah, so I think it's important to actually, it keeps you engaged and you enjoy it. And you know, there's different slogans. Some other YouTuber came up with a slogan. I'm not even sure they're still active anymore, but it's my favorite slogan. And it's keep your sleeves wet. Because it's such a true statement. Like if you're not getting your sleeve wet, you really haven't gotten to an aquarium until you got water in the armpit. You're not really even getting into it. That's not even a real like fish room day. If you don't, you know, you're looking at fish and the water runs down your armpit, like damn it. That's when you know you're really getting into it. So I love that slogan, but it's not for me. Like that was good. I wish I'd come up with that. Keep your sleeves wet.
Yeah, in response, as far as YouTube's concerned and the social media atmosphere is concerned, right, and how we gather information. Mm-hmm. So about 2 months ago, I think, one of the YouTubers had an issue with bloodworms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm feeding my fish bloodworms, and he seemed pretty adamant that bloodworms were the cause of demise of his fish.
Right. Yeah.
And he seemed pretty convincing, so I stopped feeding bloodworms. So I just wonder your opinion on.
Yeah, there was a YouTuber that lost a bunch of fish from frozen bloodworms, and then they made videos about it, and they would never feed their fish again. And would I feed it? And what are my experiences been? I think what happens is it's real easy to screw up an aquarium, and it's real easy to get bad products too. So for instance, sometimes I might order in a bunch of bloodworms to my store, and when I get them, like, ooh, they started to thaw, right? A common question we get every week to our customer service is, I forgot my bloodworms on the counter. Can I put them back in the freezer the next morning and will they be good? The answer is probably not. It at least isn't worth the few dollars you're going to lose. It's kind of like, ooh, you left chicken out over an extra night. Like, maybe you just buy some more chicken. Is it worth getting sick, right? And so what I think is, you have someone who's passionate about the hobby. and they lose the fish that they love. I spend a lot of time talking about you got to love that fish, and you do love that fish. And when you lose it, you're looking for a culprit. I do it too. Like, what did I do wrong? And you run through all the things you know, like, I didn't do any of those things wrong. It must be the bloodworms. And it might be. Maybe you had some bad ones. Maybe bloodworms and that specific fish don't go hand in hand. I have bad luck with bloodworms and epistogrammas. Everything else, fine. But I do have that experience. It's a rule in my store, we don't feed bloodworms to epistogrammas. It's also a rule in my store, we have to feed bloodworms to corydoras, because different fish are meant to eat different things. They can handle, the worm casing's different. There's a bunch that goes into it. And so, do I believe him that he thinks they killed his fish? Yes. Do I think there's a plausible chance that it did? Yes. Do I think that that is the norm? No. We run into this kind of stuff all the time. Someone will go, I bought one of your products, and when I used the product, things died. But it literally could be like, I put in a piece of sponge, or I put in biorings. Our brains naturally go, what's the last thing I did? That must be the culprit. It must be the last thing that I changed that is the problem. It was never a problem before, and then I did a thing. And so I almost made a reaction video to that, because I'm like, yeah, we feed a lot of bloodworms. And I even asked Dean, he's like, I feed a lot of bloodworms too. I will also say, have I ever had bad bloodworms? I have. Have I ever forgotten to put them back in? I have. Have I overfed fish before and they got bloated and ended up being swim bladder problems? I have. In fact, before I was ever working at a store, everything, I had a plan to make me rich. African cichlids, woo! People will pay 15 to 20 bucks for Demasoni and yellow labs. I can breed these. I bought the whole tank of each of them from my local store, and I bought a tank. They were in a 100-gallon tank in our living room, and I started power feeding them. I had to get them big enough to breed. So here's brine shrimp frozen, here's bloodworms frozen, here's brine shrimp frozen, and here's pellets, food. I soon learned what Malawi bloat is. I still bred that fish. As they were bloating out and dying, they were still releasing mouthfuls of babies for me, but their gut tract is not ready for bloodworms, basically. Too high of protein, makes them constipated, and I thought I'd figured it out, like, I'll give them enough. So brine shrimp has a lot of fiber, and if you don't know that, it helps clean fish out. I thought, I'm feeding duckweed, I'm spirulina food, and brine shrimp, and the bloodworms will put on the weight, so they'll grow faster. Dumb me, it's not the size of the fish, it's actually how mature they are, whether they can breed or not. But I'm in the hobby for under 2 years, and I'm gonna make an empire breeding African cichlids. You all are so dumb because you're not doing it. And I learned real quick. Patience and learning. And at the time, I had spent like $600 on fish. And I'm a guy that literally I was rationing. I wanted to eat. Well, this is the time, and my wife can attest to this, because it just came up on our Facebook thing, memories, like 2 weeks ago. While keeping fish, there was a year where we said, let's see how long we can go without turning the heater on. We made it the whole year. So I could save that money, and I was buying fish and doing things. Like, we were that tight on money that, like, 100 bucks to electric means Cory's not buying fish or buying food and that kind of stuff for us. And so to lose $600 or $700, this was like, I basically had started a business. Like, I'm telling Katie, we're gonna get rich. It's gonna be great. Turns out I'm real good at killing fish because I don't know what I don't know. And yeah, so in that moment, bloodworms are the devil. And I felt the same way. And then as I got exposed to many more years of using bloodworms at stores in my fish room, I go, yeah, everything's got a place. And you know, there's actually a huge difference between like a tubifex worm and a bloodworm. When you actually look at the size and the fish that can eat them, You try to give a bloodworm to a celestial pearl danio, and it just looks like it's a snork running around with that thing in its mouth all the time. You get a much skinnier tubifex worm, and it slurps it up. And so each one has their own pros and cons, their own availability. And I think the one thing that I might have say that was missed the most, not all bloodworms are equal. The truth be told, Hikari basically locked down every good frozen bloodworm producer, and they said, we'll buy every one you ever make, and they get the best. Everybody else gets, in my opinion, kind of cruddy worms. San Francisco Bay, they make the best brine shrimp hands down. Hikari is number 2 on that. And so, a lot of brands will make the same bloodworm, the same frozen thing, but they didn't all start the same way. What was the process? Are they actually treating them? How are they handling them? How are, food fish, like salmon used in fish food, did it sit there and rot on the ground for 3 days and then it got turned into fish food, or was it fresh and then done? Those matter a lot. And so there's high variability from the factory to the aquarium and the fish eating it. Is there a chance it could have ever thawed out, something gone wrong? I think the odds are yes, there is that chance. I honestly believe, as a guy that sells bloodworms at an insane amount in our store, frozen packages, I've never run into that. I have run into apistogrammas not taking it well, but outside of that, usually I find, we just kind of overfed or something else going on. I believe in that YouTuber, in their instance, it's actually that something probably just went awry. And it's easiest to go, I do think that was probably a big problem, but I also know that not all bloodworms would be that way. If I give you a piece of lemon cake and you're allergic to it and you die, all humans shouldn't eat lemon cake, right? And you gotta go, well, the whole first row, Cory made a cake and he got all of them sick. No one should ever eat cake anymore. Like, I'm just really bad at keeping stuff out of cake. Like I made it in an unsafe kitchen. So I think that what he says, he went through, I think it's true for him. Would I tell my customers don't buy bloodworms? No. If they said, I'm not gonna buy bloodworms, I'd be like, hey, we all make our own decisions, that's fine. There's people that will deworm their discus every 6 months no matter what. There are people that will do these things and they go, well, it's worked for me. How do you know? You also meet the guy that I've worn a seatbelt since I've been born. Does that mean seatbelts have never saved a life? No, it just means you've never gotten a wreck bad enough that you needed a seatbelt. And so there's all this stuff in life that happens that way. And so I try to take all the information in, coming in online, and I go, how does that apply to what I'm doing? Do I think that's a problem? And is it applicable? Like, I just know the bloodworms entering into Australia are going to be different than America. It might be different than Canada, right? And so it's not always apples to apples. I will watch a video or something like that and reflect on it and go, what do I think? What do I think my risk is here? And if I'm going, but I've been feeding bloodworms for the past 15 years and not had a problem, am I going to change it? No, I wouldn't. And so the same thing, you see it all the time, like, I don't know, how's that person 100 and they drink and they smoke every day and they're going to be 102 next year? Like, they break all the rules. And so does that mean I should smoke and drink every day? Maybe not, maybe I die. So genetics play a part. There's so much going into it. How do we know that the temperature wasn't really high or really cold in that tank? How do we know the pH wasn't different? How do we know the meal before those bloodworms didn't do it? How do we know they didn't get thawed out? We don't know. And so, as I was telling Darren, anything I tell people to do, I go A/B test it. For me to learn anything, I have to be able to repeat something. So if I took 2 groups of fish, and I take a pistos, let's say, and I feed one live baby brine shrimp, or just brine shrimp, and I feed 1 bloodworms and I kill them. I then go, okay, bloodworms might be bad. I then set up the test again and I do it. And if it kills them again, I don't do this with that. So then you go, okay, let's take a pistos out, let's try discus. Oh, they're both thriving on bloodworms. Okay, so it's not everything just dies. That's a well-known thing. You can have guppy fry choked to death on a bloodworm. They literally can choke. You can also feed a guppy so much food. If you're a guppy, like if you're raising guppies for competition, the term is called they get chesty. There's too much, like their chest gets too big. You can actually feed a guppy so much their chest will crack open. Any food can do it. You can feed them so much. Is all food bad? No, everything in moderation. And so I think there's so much to learn, and what works well for you and your schedule and what you're doing matters a lot, because you might keep fish completely different than I do. And so I think there's so many things against us. Water treatment could happen, food could go bad, the fish literally just has cancer. What are you gonna do about that? This fish is egg bound. I'm sick and I got behind on maintenance for 3 weeks. I had to go on vacation. I just had a baby. Everybody's got different things going on, and all of that gets factored in. But when you ask them what killed that fish, this thing did. Like, oh, we don't take anything else though. And sometimes it is that. Like, yeah, that gun killed that fish. I watched someone shoot it. Like, there's no denying that. And then we're all looking for the smoking gun though, because we don't want to admit, I don't know the answer. And I try to tell people so often, most times when a fish dies, you'll never know why. You're never going to spend the couple $1,000s to have a necropsy done and have the organs tested and have them really worked out, because you're like, it was a $7 fish. No one cares. Like, I don't care $2,000. I can buy a lot of fish for $2,000. So you'll never know, and that's okay. We're not trained vets. We don't have to know. When my dog passes away, I don't have to know why. The vet can tell me, yeah, my last dog passed away at 19. Had dementia. Like, I don't need to know about, yeah, what exactly killed it. Like, it was 19, that's what killed it. I could spend a lot of money to figure it out. And in fact, I did that. My first puffer, you guys probably knew Murphy. A lot of you, unless you've been following me a real long time, my first puffer was actually Hank. Hank was my first puffer, and when he passed away, we did send the fish away to have a necropsy done, and it turns out it's a parasite that there's no known cure for. It causes lesions and tumors on the organs. So even though I paid the money and I got the stuff, nothing to do different. There's nothing I could have done. And since they're all wild caught, the next one could have it or not. And so even if you spend all the money, sometimes it's like, oh, the information is useless. So yeah, I meet a lot of breeders. We're all kind of kooky. I met another one that like, Daphnia straight up kills fish. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that one, right? Then there's things like, if you don't feed the live brine shrimp within the first hour it hatches, it has no nutrition. And I'm like, I don't believe that either. We all get these little crazy things we're convinced of. I'm convinced you guys like listening to me. Crazy. So just realize what's a source. Dean's got some cockamamie ideas too. I take what I want, I leave what I don't want. Dean hates snails, I like snails. Dean doesn't keep a whole lot of shrimp, I keep a lot. He doesn't keep a lot of plants, I keep a ton of plants. Yet we can find common ground, have a good time. So you take what you want from somebody, leave what you don't want, test yourself, A/B test, and yeah, that's my advice on that.
Hi, before I ask my question, since we mentioned bloodworms, I developed quite a severe allergy to bloodworms, so I no longer can feed my poor corridors bloodworms. I'd love if there were alternatives like blackworms. I don't know what the alternative to bloodworms is, but my actual question is, if you get into breeding and then you come up with like a variant that nobody's ever seen before, how do you go about convincing a store or whoever it might be that you actually have something and get them to sell it?
Yeah, okay, good question. So you're breeding fish, you get something that happens and you're like, this is amazing. I love it. I think it's the coolest thing ever. I gotta convince the world, right? Here's how I know whether people will love it or not. I call it the grandma test. My grandma is not an aquarist. She is not a hobbyist. She can go, ooh, pretty fish, right? So if I show this fish to my grandma and she goes, wow, that is so beautiful, And she can tell the difference. If you show her the normal one and you show her the one that you think is the coolest thing, if they can go, oh wow, it's so cool how you got it to do that, you're onto something. My example of this in the store all the time, I'm convinced 90+% of people prefer a cherry shrimp to a red really shrimp. I watch people that are new to the hobby, they walk into my store and they go, ooh, I don't like that. Like, what's wrong with that one? They will literally say, what's wrong with that? We're like, no, we do that on purpose. And you would see this in all kinds of animals, right? You might look at a pug and be like, what's wrong with that dog? It doesn't have a face. Like, what happened to that thing? Oh no, that's a feature, right? And so beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Typically, we sell things like really shrimp to other people that are going to breed them and sell them and make money. The latest time I watched this happen was actually with the black and dark night rams. We were breeding them. Very few people, my grandma wouldn't be like, why would you want a blackfish? You can't even see it. All the breeders would be buying it though, going, you know how much you sell for? I'm gonna get rich. And so all the breeders are buying them up, breeding them, and they're coming back to sell them in stores. And I'm like, yeah, but the average public, a normal German blue ram looks way better. Or like you've got these electric blues or these balloons. You can clearly see they're different. And so I call it the grandma test or the soccer mom test or whatever it is. Someone that's not in the hobby and you ask them which of these two is better, if they choose your variant and they can clearly tell they're different, you're on to something. I run into breeders all the time, be like, look at this. I've got examples on my phone. There's a breeder working with white clouds and he can get it to get some horizontal stripes. He can get a little bit of a green line. He's got orange tips. He's got almost all red. There's all these variants. But are they better? Will someone buy it? Usually if we've worked with it that much, we're in love with it. We'll fall, like my wife and I, when it comes to dogs, the more eyes and legs they're missing, the more we want them. The more messed up they are, the more we have to have them. Because that's what we love. Now that's not a good thing. I shouldn't be trying to make more of those for the masses. I've got a warped sense of what a good dog is. I must save it. I can give it the best home. That's what I want. And we run into that with fish too. And so I call it the grandma test. People that don't know the hobby, can they tell they're different? And do they like it? Because the reality is most of what gets sold in a pet store is new people walking through the door and they're doing what I call the point and shoot. They go, I like that, and I like that. And they pointed out an axolotl, an Oscar, and a celestial pearl Danio. They know nothing other than, I like those. They can't go together? If they will point to the thing you've made, you're gonna make money. That's why they can point to a pink angel glowfish and it sells, because they love it. That's why it sells. I don't like most glowfish. I don't sell any glowfish myself. I think one of these days I'm gonna have to buy some glow Corridoras, because every time I go like, oh, it's so gross that I kind of want it. Glow sharks, they're kind of jerks. So I can go, not you. Even pink, so I did talk to some people. Petco's sell a lot of glowfish. And I talked to some of the managers when I go visit, because they want to talk shop. Customers suck, we all suck. And I go, who's buying all the pink angels at $30 a piece? And she said, oh, it's all breeders. They're all trying to get rich. Like the average grandma, the average soccer mom, the average kid goes, $30, too much money. The breeders see dollar signs. I'm gonna make so much money. And so, yeah, you gotta pass that test. And that's the test that people bring cool fish to me all the time. And I go, that's amazing. I don't want it. What do you mean you don't want it? I don't think I can sell that many of those. Some people might be breeding pipefish. It's like, that's amazing. People aren't gonna be able to keep it alive. I don't wanna sell it. It's the same reason when you go into stores, they don't have all the coolest fish. And everyone that starts a store says, I'm gonna be the store that sells all the cool stuff. The cool stuff isn't necessarily what sells. Discus, we all agree, are pretty cool. Why aren't we all only keeping discus? Well, because we like other stuff, and they're expensive, and they're finicky, and they gotta be hot, and they gotta do this. And so, having all the coolest stuff seems great. Darren's probably fallen in the same trap I do. there's a lot of $25 tetras that we don't buy. They look dope, but I don't have $200 or $300 to buy a school of those. And so that's why a lot of stuff won't reach the hobby. Or you go, that's really cool. I keep the version that's $4. It looks almost the same, you know? You can, and where I see that all the time is like, yeah, it's a Congo Tetra, it's $15. Yeah, but this is a different Congo Tetra that's $40. And you're like, yeah, I don't need that though. That's not that much cooler. And so, yeah, that's my answer to that. Grandma test. Maybe it's a spouse, like maybe ask my wife, is this cool? Yeah, it's all right. Oh, okay, you don't love it. And then if I take them to the tank and I've got the originals with them, you see anything different? And then they go like, yeah, did you change the gravel? No, I'm talking about the fish, It's like when your spouse says like, what do you think? And you're like, yeah, did you get a haircut? No. Is it a new shirt? No. I shaved today. Oh, okay. Yeah, it looks good. So you want to make sure, with any survey, you can guide people to the answer you want. If you say, do you like the fish that I bred for the last 5 years and I'm hoping makes it, honey? They're going to say yes. If you ask a question like, what's the coolest fish in this tank? And they point to like, yeah, the auto sinkless. Like, damn it, not that. So yeah, I want that test. I want the unbiased feedback. And you might miss it because maybe the person you asked or the 2 or 3 people you asked, they're not into what you're into, and you might miss it. But I watch a lot of people spend a lot of time developing a thing, and they're convinced it's amazing. And somehow it's always angelfish breeders. I don't know why. But I got this clown smoky green thing. Like, it's a new thing. Like, sure, but does anybody want it? No. You want black angels, you want silver angels, you want ultims, you want reds. One metric that you can kind of know, if you can make it a solid color, you're already doing better. You take something that only comes in blue and now you can make it red shrimp, blue shrimp, green shrimp, yellow shrimp, black shrimp. We'll even dye them blue. Remember blueberry shrimp that were brown shrimp dyed blue for a long time? Now we can actually make them blue though. We will buy any solid color. Same with guppies. But then when you go like, yeah, but this one's got a slightly different tail. People don't care enough. It's got to really stand out to them to see the value, And if you said, like, I'm trying to think of a fish where, let's say you brought an entire green ram to me. You're onto something. You're onto something there. Black, it's not a color. It is, but it's like, yeah, it's devoid of color. People want color. They want salt water. They want those beautiful things. Nerds like the behavior. You want to, the people that are the craziest in my opinion are the Lake Tanganyika people or the brown killifish people. They're like, no, it's only a face a mother can love. You don't want that when you're trying to support a hobby or maybe to retirement, stuff like that. So if you can do all of that before you bring it to the store and they crush your world, you're better off for it. Definitely take pictures and ask them. You can ask them early and they're like, yeah. But when you're asking a store, you also might be a pain in the butt and they don't even want to deal with you. So they might crush your dream and it's like, yeah, you're really hard to work with, but your fish is actually amazing. Your fish got to be really good if I can't be in the same room with you. So send pictures early, ask your friends, ask other breeders. Like on my phone, I've got long fin celestial pearl danios that a guy's working on and like, oh, I'd like some of those, right? But if you just said, long fin sounds cool, like, ooh, big flowy fins. Now if you say, I have a celestial pearl danio, it only has a high dorsal, you're kind of like, yeah, maybe, kind of cool, maybe. I'd have to see it, right? So not all traits. Now, high dorsal fin and long fin, now I'm on it. Now it's even better. But yeah, have you guys noticed a trend with cherry shrimp? We've run out of things to do. So we went from brownish to slightest red to looks like it's nail polish red to now we're so red we're mostly brown and other brown. Like we went so magenta and somehow it's better. It's actually just new. And that's an example of you didn't make it better. It is new. We're trying to convince you guys you want it. But we actually want painted fire reds that look like fire engine red, painted nail polish. That's what we really want. You might be a super nerd breeder and you're like, well, I'm actually looking for this. Sure. But the average public go, that's amazing. That one's not as good as that one. And so if you're really trying to build a business or expand a fish room, you better make sure it passes the grandma test. Otherwise, I've watched a lot of people spend thousands of dollars to go, I could barely give them away. So, and they start with high prices. I'm the only one that's got it. I developed it. I can make lots of products. If no one wants to buy them, it doesn't do me any good. So I shop it around. I ask my friends, Dean tests it, stores test it. I go, is this good? Am I crazy? Sometimes I'm crazy. Like, yeah, you don't need that. I was so scared when I launched my foods because I was convinced that I'd been looking so hard for so many years that I was willing to settle. Turns out it was actually pretty good, but I was scared to death of like, I've been looking for so long, people, why haven't you done it? And I wouldn't just put my name on anything. I got it, and they're like, this is amazing. I'm like, really? Really? Like, honestly, you're not just saying that. Dean's one of the few people to be like, it sucks. He will tell me to my face because he knows I'll spend $100,000 and he would not be a friend if he just said, no, it's good, Cory, it's good, and it's not good. And so you don't want to surround yourself with yes people. You don't want that positive feedback loop unless it's deserved. If it's deserved, you want it. And so, yeah, it's, you know, if I give you all free fish food, you're like, yeah, it's good, I'll take more. It's another thing like, no, I really, would you pay money for this? How is it better? What's your experience? And most times when I'm asked for feedback, what didn't you like? I know that it's got good things, but what don't you like about it? So maybe ask when you show someone a fish, I made this, what don't you like about it? Oftentimes you're so enamored that you made a new color, they're like, why is the fins too short? Why is it doing that? Well, but it's a new color. Yeah, you gotta get both though, that's the package. So, that's what I got. Grandma test.